Nous avions fui d'ici à cause de la guerre. Après la guerre, il y avait aussi une autre guerre qui s'est cachée, de pillage, de mortalité qui se faisait ici chez nous. Alors quand nous contrôlons nous-mêmes de voir que nous n'avons rien de combattre avec ce type, il nous faut de fuir seulement. Nous avions laissé les maisons, les biens, les tout, et partir sous les arbres, aller se cacher. Sans avoir à quoi manger, à quoi boire, même des médicaments, même l'instruction, même la nouvelle qui se passe au monde. Nous étions là-bas comme des animaux.
Delivering humanitarian aid, a complex business these days, relying on a multitude of governmental and non-governmental organizations working together to get aid to people like Ombeni fast. But 20 years ago, this could be an ad hoc and hazardous affair that often relied on the enthusiasm of its operatives rather than organization and technology. But in 1992, a large advance was made when the European Commission set up the European Humanitarian Aid Department, called ECHO, and its task was specifically to provide and coordinate emergency relief funding for victims of natural disasters and armed conflicts around the world.
Europeans who really hold strong on the value of solidarity felt that we had to come to the rescue in a more organized, more effective way, and that was the birth of ECHO.
ECHO was soon to be tested as the Balkans were engulfed in internecine warfare, creating an unprecedented humanitarian and refugee crisis. Sarajevo was to bear the brunt of much of the fighting, cut off for 3 years. Zana Vuleta was 10 years old when the siege started, living with her parents and her younger brother. For 6 months, venturing out was something strictly off-limits, as the threat from snipers and artillery intensified.
Sarajevo was completely surrounded. Nobody could go out, nobody could enter apart from the humanitarian aid. So we didn't have nothing to eat, absolutely nothing. There was a period when people started to eat grass.
Zana and her family, like so many in the region, came to rely on humanitarian aid, but not all organizations were as impartial as ECHO.
I come from a mixed family. My mother is a Bosnian Muslim, my father is a Bosnian Serb, and from the name and the surname of my father, they understood that I came from a family in which a father was a Serb, a Bosnian Serb. So we didn't receive help from some organizations, smaller ones, but some people had maybe 7 kilos of oil, liters of oil, and we had 4.
ECHO helped everybody, no matter their religious or ethnic backgrounds, but dealing with such a vast movement of humanity was a huge challenge. The effects of the conflict were long-lasting, with displaced people still being supported or repatriated years after the guns fell silent. But it is when battle is raging that the strength of the principles underpinning ECHO's work are tested.
I really believe strongly and deeply in the principles that are absolutely the base principles of the European Commission's humanitarian aid, which are independency, impartiality, neutrality. You have to respect them because during the siege, everybody is in the same situation.
The Balkan Wars of the 1990s were the crucible that forged ECHO's approach to relief operations in conflict zones around the world. While the war in the Balkans raged, a little-known country in the heart of Africa burst into the headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Ni
wapfuguye ahangaha byanga bikunda waba uruhutse munsi y'ugutwi ahita apfa nyirasenge ahita ambwira ati dore umwana amaze gupfa ndamubwira ntiwirira ibintu byakomeye ndabona ko abatutsi kashobotse mwurutse umushyire hasi natwe ntituzi ko turiho nahise ndyama kuri aritari nijishura umwana nari mfite ubwo noneho binjiramo batangira gutema baza kuvuga bati byari bigeze nko mu masaa 9 ariko bagiye bica abantu bangerekaho.
In the space of 100 days, it is estimated that 500,000 people were killed in Rwanda. In some cases, neighbour turned against neighbour as people from the majority Hutu group targeted Tutsis in an orgy of orchestrated violence. The country was overwhelmed as it collapsed into civil war, causing incalculable human cost. Soon the tables were to turn, and the Hutus now found themselves under assault. Over 1 million refugees from Rwanda, including people implicated in the genocide, fled to camps in surrounding countries. The Great Lakes region of Africa, a fragile place at the best of times, was severely destabilized, and the effects reverberate to this day. It is not always easy for relief staff to stay impartial in the face of such horrors.
There was always the effects on the young children who were, they're too young to have any sort of political ideas or agendas or anything like that. They're totally innocent victims of what the adults did.
Of course, then on the field you help everybody, right? You don't make differences. And of course you also try to save life of a soldier that maybe is the aggressor. That's not the question. The question is that when it comes to a political debate, exactly because the political solution is not in our hands, it's in the political sphere, our knowledge from the field, our witness, I think it has to be put on the table.
But the forces of Mother Nature herself can cause as much suffering as man's violence upon man. In 2004, a subsea earthquake off the coast of Sumatra caused a tsunami that killed up to 200,000 people throughout Asia in a matter of minutes, one of the deadliest disasters in recorded history. Coastal communities throughout Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India and Thailand were reeling from a catastrophe that happened in the middle of the holiday period.
The main challenge was to dispatch as many eco-experts as possible to the different area hit by the tsunami. And with the limited resources we had at our disposal, to have a better appreciation of the extent of the destruction, the needs, in order to organize a response, to plan and program the most appropriate response.
Holiday plans were dropped, and staff from all over the world were rapidly brought into the region, prioritizing the areas most at risk and the aid needed. Sri Lanka was very badly affected, and people like Selvam, Selvarani were forced to leave their homes.
நாங்கள் வந்து சுனாமியால் இடம்பெயர்ந்து வந்து இந்த வட்டவன் கிராமத்தில் இருக்கிறோம். இந்த வட்டவன் கிராமத்தில் வந்து தண்ணி பிரச்சனை எங்களுக்கு பெரிய பிரச்சனையாக இருக்குது. இந்த ஆரம்பத்தில் எங்களுக்கு தண்ணி வந்து இங்கே குடித்ததுக்கு பிறகு என்னென்னா எங்களோட மிஸ்டருக்கு ஒரு கல் வயிற்றில் அந்த கிட்னிக்கு பக்கத்தில் ஒரு கல் விளைஞ்சதுன்னு சொல்லி ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் காட்டு நடத்த அவங்க சொன்னவங்க தண்ணியெல்லாம் வந்துட்டு.
The solution was nearby, but it needed investment and technical expertise.
சுனாமி ஏற்பட்டது 2004 டிசம்பர் 26ஆம் தேதி. அந்த காலகட்டத்தில் வந்து நீர் வந்து மிகவும் தேவையாக காணப்பட்டது. அங்கே வந்து நீர் இல்லாத போது எங்களோட வெறுகல் கங்கை வந்து இருந்த வாயிலாக அதை ஒக்ஸ்ஃபாம் நிறுவன பிரதிநிதிகளோட கதைத்து அவங்களோட ஆலோசனையோட இந்த வெறுகல் கங்கையிலிருந்து நீரை சுத்திகரித்து இந்த மக்களுக்கு வவுச்சர் மூலம் கொடுத்தால் நீண்ட கால நிலைத்திருக்கும் என்ற தன்மையோடு ஏற்படுத்தினது வந்து.
Oxfam teamed up with ECHO to construct the purification plant, and now the villagers and new residents have access to clean water.
இந்த வட்டவனில் வந்து தண்ணி பிரச்சனை வந்து பெரிய பிரச்சனையாக இருக்குது. ஆகவே அவங்க வந்து அந்த தண்ணியை செய்து தருவாங்கண்டா உண்மையாக நல்லா இருக்கும். அந்த குடிக்கிறதுக்கு தண்ணி வந்து அங்கே வெறுகல்ல இருந்து கங்கை மூலம் சுத்திகரிக்கப்பட்டு தான் இங்கே கொண்டு வந்து தராங்க.
In 2010, ECHO's ability to react quickly and effectively was enhanced when the EU's civil protection mechanism was brought under ECHO's remit, providing coordinated deployment of EU countries' assets, such as specialist teams and equipment for crises, both within and outside Europe. The mechanism's operational heart is the Monitoring and Information Centre in Brussels. Here requests for aid are married up with capabilities both on the ground and elsewhere.
Good morning. Yes, this is the Mick from Brussels.
It's about assessing the disaster, taking in the facts, establishing a list of needs, talking to the member states, what assets do you have, and in which way do we believe they should be put together so that we maximize the effect out there.
The eyes and ears of this organisation are the experts based in the field. They assess and liaise with the partner agencies. They need to be a special breed of people. When Haiti was struck by a big earthquake in 2010, Vicente Raimundo was one of the first on the scene.
I mean, there is not a script. I mean, you just need to understand what's going on. You need to know where you are going to be able to work, because for days we were not able to find our staff, so no office access, no vehicles, no communications. I mean, what we brought, satellite phones, computers with us, and a place to sleep and a place to eat. So classical stuff, I would say.
Around 1 million people were made homeless in Haiti after the quake, but the first challenge was dealing with the injured. Petit Frére's daughter was injured by falling masonry, but luckily ECHO's partner, Médecins Sans Frontières, was nearby.
Il transportait à l'hôpital au lycée français, là où se trouvent les médecins frontières. Et puis, il avait pris soin de lui, fait de la radiographie pour lui. Et puis, le docteur Pézuzi a signé pour que l'enfant doit aller chez les Antilles, à Martinique, pour que mon enfant apprenne plus de soins pour lui.
I think what distinguishes ECHO from many other donors is the quality of the people on their staff. Their staff, most of whom have worked in NGOs, really know the field.
Our people on the ground, in many of the situations we face, can have a dialogue with ECHO and interact. And that interaction is sometimes extremely important, even for the definition of our own strategies, of our own policies, and of the response we are able to mobilize to the crisis we face.
The most marginalized of the world are facing ever-increasing and complex challenges, from climate change to population growth. People who live in regions like the Horn of Africa have borne the brunt of these changes, as environmental, political and social factors have come together to challenge their very way of life. Slow, profound changes that rarely make it to the front page of the news, but have a huge impact on individual lives. Asker Ahmed Azdi has lived through a lot, but he worries for the future.
arigii lahayna asagana abaartii iga dhamaysay bacdi abaarta haday dhacday waxaan abuuran way macad warta biyo ima gelin dhib fara badanaa i gaari markan ilaas bacdi sanadkan ruux markiis dhacay dhulkaan idin waa wala abuuri waxaan biyo iga gooy intaan isa markaan abuuri haddana biyo iga gooy waa ku celi haddana biyo iga gooy wartan markan ciidii biyo wadana iga xawaash.
The climate issue is an issue which can make already difficult situations much more difficult.
In this part of the world, animals are your bank account, and Adan has suffered his own version of a banking crisis.
قبيل لما نسيس جيل وقول للرجيه إبر أنا قدرت إلا بدي متي والله أركاه هشوا دمتي رتقول دمتي إلا يسد حد دمتي والله أركاه ومط لما نسيس جيل وقول للرجيه إبر وا لليه جيل أسدود توريه ذا ففديست أسلي ما أنت تعرف.
This means that ECHO and its partners are very busy in places such as Kenya, trying to support communities that are at threat through programs supporting such areas as seed improvement projects and animal health. But malnutrition itself has become an even greater threat.
I'm sure with not this program in place, many children will die because of malnutrition. They will die because of diseases like diarrhea, And I'm sure this program is saving a lot of children, the lives of a lot of children.
There are more and more cases when we need to build links between relief and development. And this is where we find ourselves actually not being so good today, and we require much more effort from both the humanitarians and the development community to be effective for the challenges of tomorrow.
It's about creating resilient societies. The best you can do is actually to make sure that people are prepared, that they have a knowledge about the risks that they're facing, and with that knowledge and this preparation, they actually suffer much less.
During the 20 years since its inception, ECHO has grown from a department with a handful of staff to one of the world's largest donors, with an annual budget of more than €1 billion. Its operations cover more than 140 countries, working with more than 200 partners, providing a vast range of help from food, healthcare, shelter and water, through to mine awareness and psychological support. Above all, though, ECHO stands as a flagship of European solidarity with the world's most needy.